So I think we have quorum now, so we could start. So January minutes. Did everyone get a chance to look at those?
Yep.
All right. Any corrections?
Hearing none, I move they be approved.
Anyone second? Second. All right. January minutes are approved. I thought we could shift a little bit the order of the agenda because we have Phil here from Minuteman Media Network. So I just wanted to do real quickly committee membership, and then I thought we could skip over to spring forum if that's all right with everyone, so that we don't keep Phil too long discussing other ag committee stuff. So just a quick update on committee membership. We are allowed 3 associate members, and Joe submitted his green card and was sworn in today as an ag committee associate member. So we now have 2 associate members, Joe and Melissa. So that's exciting. Yeah. All right. So we now have 7 people on our committee. We can technically have 1 more associate member. So if anyone knows anyone that might be interested in the ag committee, definitely put the word out. But yeah, it's looking good for membership. Is everyone all right with moving on, skipping over to spring forum and dealing with the other stuff later?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I heard from several folks about the types of things that they were planning to do for their demos. I think Phil, it would be if I've emailed a little bit with you about what we're thinking of having farms do on-farm demos. Either have them be open to the public with a limited open to the public where they would sign up and reserve spots, or just having it filmed and broadcast on Minuteman Media Network. So I would love to hear from you what you think, what like the timing is like on turnaround for how much how long it takes to like produce a segment about the farms. And
well, again, I think like a lot of things it depends.
Yeah, sure.
That's not a real committed answer. Because obviously it's going to depend on what somebody. I'm new to this, so I don't really know what it's been like in the past, so I can't compare it to anything just because I haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. So, maybe can I actually ask somebody to give me an idea of what it's been like in the past? What most people like, what they encounter when they go to one of these.
So it's actually quite different from how we've done our spring forum in the past. Has just been usually like a panel at Harvey Wheeler or another venue in town, and they haven't been on farm. It's just been usually in March, but obviously because of COVID, we are not going to be having a gathering of 50 people inside. So our idea was to spread it out outdoors and have smaller tours or demos, but also the option that we could discuss further of just for farms that are not comfortable having the public come on to the property, or who, I know Chip was going to talk to the greenhouses, like inside a greenhouse is not probably the best place to have a group coming in. So those farms could just be a filmed segment. And the farms that are comfortable with hosting people, in conjunction with this could have events on the farm. I know for Melissa and I were discussing on our farm, we were thinking like it might be difficult to have a film segment while the public is also there, that we could schedule a time to have a demo filmed on the farm and then separately do one that the public is invited to.
It sounds like it could be like you're having like a live but also a virtual event at the same time.
Yeah.
Or,
Filming something from somebody giving a demonstration or an overview of their farm could be anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to a half hour. It just depends on what is that there, what they want to show off, and what they want to talk about. I mean, one of the benefits is that we could probably get some behind the scenes. In fact, we might be able to get some footage now of pre-prep stuff, because this I don't know if I want to call it a seminar, but this is scheduled. You push this back now because you were saying March. You pushed it back, correct?
Yes. So our idea was to do it in late April, early May, because there's actually things to see on farm, outside at that time of year. There's not much to see in March other than inside greenhouses, and that doesn't seem like the best idea under the circumstances.
Right. So, but between for the month of April, there might be a few things that, again, we might be able to make a stop at a site, get something, get an overview, a little presentation, and then come back at the end of April, and then maybe, things have started to look, we can see a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I mean. There's that can be worked into. I think it just depends on, what somebody has at their farm that they want to show and illustrate. So we have time, we have a little bit of time there. But in terms of turning something around, again, pretty straightforward. If it's a conversation, just some farmers just wants to talk about, here's my farm, this is what I have, and then that be that. I mean, again, it could be anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes, which depends on. We'll take as much time with the farmers as they like. I see no reason to kind of limit it to just say, no, 5 minutes and that's it. Again, this is all new for everybody. So
yeah, I
think it just depends on how involved somebody wants to get, how in depth they want to talk, and how much of a presentation they want to give.
Yeah. And does it make sense to have, so we're obviously still kind of like in the early stages of kind of planning what we want to do. Does it make sense to have, like a segment that incorporates all the farms, or have like short segments for each farm as they're ready? Because, it might be that someone wants to do, like Melissa, you talked to Saltbox about, they wanted to do something with their bees, but it would be a very specific date in early April, where some people might be doing something in May. I don't know what folks think about the idea of having, different segments on different days.
Let me back up one second then, real quick. Ideally I think the idea behind this all is to get people to the sites, correct? And this is people in the community of Concord, other communities I would assume as well, but Concord specifically. Like that's the goal, right? I mean, because we could do a panel discussion like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's a doable type of a thing, almost like a webinar or something of that nature. But I don't think that's what you're looking for.
No, I think people will be more interested in seeing outside what's going on in the field or in the greenhouse, and seeing that more than just talking about it.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I don't know if this would lend to it, but I mean, for instance, with seeding, you can seed a bunch of trays, and that has somewhat, I don't know, it might be as interesting to some people, but what would be kind of interesting is if it could be like a span of time in between, so you'd come back and see seedlings coming up, and then maybe see a little thing on transplanting them into cups, or so that would be something that would have little snippets over a period of time of a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks.
Right, and to be honest with you, to make it even easier for the farmer, in a cell phone, they could shoot 5 minutes I mean, we can loan them just something so it can kind of hold the phone. They could shoot a few minutes of it and just literally email it to us, and we can edit it all together, and then come out at the end, maybe a week beforehand, and again, just like a discussion of what it is that they had done. So there are things that we can do that, again, so we don't have to go on to the forum as well, because we just formally have access to smartphones, not work something out, maybe try to make something available for somebody. So there is that option. And I think that could, again, if somebody's doing some seeding, may not, because I don't know how long it takes, but again, if they start doing it, it's like, oh gee, I forgot to get that guy over and a call. They can just quickly take their phone out and tape it themselves or film it themselves, and then just make it available to us.
We could do that, but then also we do successive planning so that if you wait till maybe 3 or 4 weeks after the first planting, there'd be different stages, and we could do some seeding and transplanting on the same day.
Oh yeah. Again, I think for us, it's just scheduling time. Whether we come out or somebody, if they feel comfortable with their own phone or whatever they happen to have. I think that with the date in mind, and how many farms are you thinking about? Just for my information, 2 to 12, more or less.
Between 2 and 12. I think Hutchins has sent in a description. Dan, you were Walden Woods is going to participate.
Yeah, I just about half an hour ago I saw something. But
that's fine. No, it's just good to have
I've been trying to get her.
Steve's going to. Sorry, Steve. What were you?
Well, I've been trying to get a hold of Ricky Marshall. I think he must have been in Florida. I stopped by and I've sent him emails and left voicemails, but I think he could have a great thing with his chickens.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I'm sorry, but I got to get this in. I've noticed it doesn't appear he's on our mailing list unless he has some other name.
Ricky is Farm Electric.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Grace Shimon sent in something today, so I think that we're talking about maybe like 6 to 8 farms probably participating.
Yeah. Again, I think it's very doable. And then it's also, again, I guess, a question about how to present, because again, I think it's the excitement of the day to get people out. But, from that point, we could pepper things throughout the day for YouTube. So it actually premieres at 10 o'clock, and then the next one's at 12 o'clock, and then the next one's at 2 o'clock. So, you can have it scheduled in between to, premiere. I mean, we could put it up right now, and everybody could look at it between now and then, or again, just trying to build some attention for that respective day. So again, it's part of this rollout of all these things that are, occurring live, but also virtual.
So this year we don't have so the overarching goal is really the promotion and like education for the farms in general. We will have limited options in terms of like the number of people that can come for the tours. So the idea behind having it filmed would be, the timing isn't as big of an issue because it's just part of the whole thing, and tours are another part. And then the big goal is just that we generally do like an educational sort of outreach thing in the spring before we all open to kind of like get the word out. So the timing on our end that way is flexible. It doesn't have to like focus on getting people to the farms for the tours.
I think I really need to give this more thought and work with some of my other team here. And I know it's not the same thing, but in the Patriots Day, there's a lot of activities that have historically taken place, on the one day. Actually, it's like on the long weekend, but it's not going to be happening. So we're working with the National Park, the Friends of Minuteman, the Celebrations Committee, and even looking at some of the other towns too, because of some of the activities they're doing. So I'm just wondering, not taking any of those things, pulling them in there, but looking at some of the ideas. I have a meeting tomorrow actually with one of their work groups about what things they're looking to do, and I'm just wondering if there's some ideas that I might be able to, start from them, and maybe utilize for this. But it's
Well, Louise, don't you think that it's more important to pinpoint, say, a 5 or 7 day period where we have maybe these short introductions to planting of whatever the farms are going to do, and then let it show in the big picture, so to speak, the culmination of the week with Bill's film, let's say, for right now.
Yeah.
So that you have an emphasis and then you have a follow-up. If we leave it to 2 weeks, 10 days, I think we lose a lot of people.
I think
Their interest is not that great.
so. We had talked last meeting about having tours and demos spread out over kind of like a 3-week period, that we would have like 2, maybe 3 farms per week having a tour or a demo. But I don't know that all of those farms necessarily want to open their tours or demos to the public.
If you remember, or take another look at the statue of the Minuteman, he was behind a plow with his coat hanging over the plow.
Yeah.
And the Minutemen, a lot of them were farmers that left when they needed to defend whatever. And we're the farmers that are left. And I think there might be a tie in there with 19th.
Phil, I'm curious what like the turnaround is between us like getting footage to you and being able to like produce and share a segment. I know it depends on kind of like the length of the amount of footage. Say if we were aiming for each farm to have, I don't know, a 5 to 10 minute segment, that each farm that wanted to participate.
Yeah. And actually, just something Happy was just saying a moment ago, just kind of made me think for a moment. Maybe for the farms that don't necessarily want to have people on, we can again get some stuff in advance. And the week before you have this Saturday, I'm assuming it's a Saturday event, at 7 p.m., one farm is highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
On Tuesday, another farm is highlighted. So those farms are highlighted at a certain time, and then of course leading up to the event, and then we can maybe try to get some footage that day of things. But how long would it take? Again, it really depends. I mean, an interview, a 5-minute interview is a 5-minute interview. And maybe if there's some graphics that you folks use for your print material, if you have any sort of graphic or just the general logo that you have, we would maybe try to, make a nice title card. Obviously, keep the color scheme and the fonts, along with, the lower third that we would be able to create. But these are not things that would take a long time. Again, as I say, a 5-minute interview is a 5-minute interview. And then to edit that would probably take less than 30 minutes. But, then at the 5-minute interview, we get, planting some seeds here, come back 2 weeks later, a little bit more progression. Yeah, that'll take a little bit more, but again, it just really depends on how long. I don't know what kinds of B-roll that would be needed person talking for 5 minutes just like this
Yeah.
is the simplest thing to do. But if they're demonstrating something, then that's a little bit more time. So, and then my coworkers are very meticulous. They would probably love to get as many variations of a shot, the fingers into the dirt, something like that. They would probably, we want to do the best job we can. That, time. But again, I guess, I think it's, if we're just trying the word out, but, make it look professional, obviously, without seeming like something from the Chronicle or something of that nature.
Is that day in mind, or sorry? I don't think we really talked about having a set day, but
What we had talked about was that we weren't going to have like one day where all the tours and demos were happening, that it was going to be each farm kind of determine what day worked for them, especially based on, what you're planning to demo, because some of the stuff is very time sensitive. So I think, like we had discussed the last week in April through the first 2 weeks in May as being time, like a time period where farms could be hosting demos or tours if they were willing to have people on the farm. But that there wouldn't be one event where one day where everyone was hosting something. Sorry, what would be happy?
What if we take, say, the end of April that week, and we'd say, okay, this is the week that we're going to have the short videos on a how-to thing. The people that are running tours or outdoor events could then be scheduled probably for the weekends, I'm thinking. So if we had one or two that week, and then we'll say, and we are continuing these events through next week, but have 1 week that sort of gets people knowing that something's happening on the farm, and they can start scheduling to go to the farm events in the next 2 weeks. So let's say we had a core of time where these short things are being presented, and then the next week, the bigger, longer involved events will take place.
I feel like the spring event has always been kind of a singular presentation where, there's not a lot going on at the farms that customers can really, we don't have a lot to sell. We may have a lot to say, but I feel like having some sort of venue where people can see everything, especially if people aren't doing actual tours, especially if they're doing like a video tour, if we can mesh that together into something that people can watch at one sitting, instead of having to say, well, I'm going to look in 2 weeks, I'm going to look at this one, in 3 weeks, I'm going to look at that one. Particularly if there's follow-up, if you're knitting together videos of, seeding at one point and 2 weeks later, transplanting, trying to figure out a date. It might be later than our normal spring forum, but where this can all be presented at once, I think would be better. I just think you get a bigger audience.
Right. We have to figure a way to make watching seeds sprout more interesting than watching paint dry.
That's right. It's fascinating, Steve. I don't know about you.
I feel like having like an intro, like like you say, with all the farms, very brief, and maybe even that's where the interviews happen, and then something where each farm is doing something a little bit different, over the course of an hour and a half video might be more comprehensible and digestible to people than something that's spread out over a long period of time.
So
I
Brad,
agree.
suggesting like one long segment, but that like each farm has like a cohesive like 5 to 10 minute segment of the larger segment, and that's all put out at once.
I guess that's what I thought we had been talking about doing, like that the actual on-farm taping part was over the long period of time, and then it would be one production.
Presentation.
Yeah.
So where and how would this be presented, or that needs to be figured out?
That needs to be figured out.
Did they recommend the idea?
Who's gonna write the script for the long term?
Joe, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to recommend that the result of the work of Minutemen, should be, I want to recommend the general idea of that each farm would have, I'm going to say 10 minutes, could be a different number of minutes, but each farm would have a presentation, something that would represent each farm, and that should be kept in some way that the public could have access to it, so you could go to that and find it. And these sections could be modified and edited and changed and added to over time, but it would always be a library in which each farm, someone in Concord could go to a presentation of each farm and become familiar with it. You would have the owner of the farm would have said something about it, what they do, introduction to the farm, and that would be as kept in, as it were, a video album, as it were. It was accessible, and it would be useful in all of the other presentations that we're making.
Again, in light of the making it one production, and again, if there's 12 farms, and making say 10 minutes, that's 120 minutes right there. So then that, fine. I mean, again, we can do that. But then break a lot of different ways we can go with this. I think really, again, the final product, the end product, maybe it sounds like this would be its own standalone type of
This almost sounds to me like an update of what's growing in Concord, which was going to be the centerpiece of our spring forum last year. Kind of 10 years on, what does farming in Concord look like today? But maybe you don't want something that's 10 minutes per farm, something a little more compact by way of introduction, kind of what Melissa was saying, in the hopes of reminding people, introducing people to Concord's farms, and whetting their appetite for visiting during the upcoming long season. So,
well, there could be an introductory piece that is standalone in a certain sense. And then you can have each farm having a piece that a person would have the opportunity for, the audience would have the opportunity to watch it all as one thing, or they could, pick and choose. I don't have time to watch it all now, but I'm going to watch this one and that one.
Well, I was thinking, I guess I had more in mind a single production, but then I think Happy's point is a good one. Who's going to write the script? Or maybe there's just a handful of questions that each farmer is invited to address as they're filmed and as their farm is filmed. And perhaps the filming should be not on individual cameras, but through Midman, so that it does have a professional and cohesive and sort of integrated or consistent look and feel.
Probably say a fair amount about each farm in 5 minutes, I would think.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean,
And each farmer able to say in their 5 minutes whatever they want to say. So that will vary farm to farm.
So that's the introduction, but then each farm would get to kind of, do this
Make their pitch.
thing that's like a virtual tour where, we're doing planting and there's no script really. It's just, you're going to show, you're going to explain what's going on, perhaps, but each farm is going to, it might be chickens, this is how we feed, how we raise, and how we collect the eggs, and this other farm is doing how we can plant, and this other farm is doing how we seed. And it's like a
It'll be
mosaic.
very spring centric.
You don't have to be.
Yeah.
But it should.
Can I just go back? Earlier, you mentioned that, non-COVID times, this would be a panel discussion at Harvey. So it would be the individual farmers from the respect. And they would talk about a topic in particular, or just, I'm so-and-so from this farm and this is what we do, or?
we've done a number of things. We've done panels. We've had like one speaker come and speak about a particular topic. Sometimes it's been panels of Concord farmers. We had one year someone from another organization moderate a panel for us as well. But would you all say that it's mostly been panels that we've done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly.
But that would be more geared for the farmers, correct? Or the public?
Who's the public? That's this is all for public.
The public does like to seem to hear from different farmers.
So who was planning to do demonstrations that could be filmed and or open to timed visits from the public?
We would do one.
Steve would do one. We would do one. Hutchins. Saltbox was willing to do one about their bees.
And us.
Dan, you would do one.
For bees.
It's
So that's 5. Dan, what were you planning?
Yeah, I'm planning to do like something like cultivating and maybe putting in raised beds or something like that.
Okay, so let's say we would have 5 or 6.
Yeah, Grace also emailed and said they wanted to do something about peas, planting peas. So
Yeah. So if we had 6 shorts of like 2 or 3, let's say 2 to 5 minutes. And these are the things that we could advertise. The spring forum this year is in 6 segments. Tune in to whatever the address is on the first 3 days of that week, which we're declaring as spring forum week. And then we would have a larger piece, which would show this is what the farms have looked like all winter. And now we're progressing to spring. It's not such a great time. It's muddy, it's wet, but there are lots of things going on. And you can go around to all the farms and collect footage of what that time is like. And then also say you can visit and participate in these activities that you've seen in the past 3 days at these forums.
I think it might be a bit much to do 2 separate, like I think maybe if each farm focused in on one segment rather than having like a bunch of footage from over a long period of time. That might be.
Well, that would be like Dylan would be collecting
Yeah.
what's going on.
Right. I'm just, I don't want to create too much work for anybody with having, like if each farm could focus in on demonstrating one thing that they're doing in the spring and just have their segment be at one thing.
We could plant snow peas this weekend.
Sorry, what was that, Steve?
We could plant snow peas this weekend.
Yeah, snow peas this weekend.
Well, one thing I think would be good is to have, a form that could be drawn up for everybody who's going to participate as to what it is that they're doing, and then, providing a time frame of what might take for something. So then, we can kind of look at this and determine like when we can go, if there's a time that planting is done, has to be at a certain time of the day or day of the week, or week of the month or so. We can kind of do it. I guess it's just I'm gonna have to probably put onto you folks to come up with some kind of overall, who's all participating, what they're willing to do, and maybe how long they're willing to have us come out and interview with them, whether it's, just one day, they can only spare one day, and that would be the last Saturday of March or something like that. But this would at least help us, I think, kind of put it all together, because again, if you're talking, half a dozen to a dozen farms, especially as it gets, to a particular date, we need to, schedule that work out for our team. But I'm still wrestling around, with what the final product is going to be and what's the best way to present it, because the public channel, which is channel, noticed by heart right now. That's on that would be on a Friday afternoon or Saturday. We can put the day, if there was a day you wanted time, we could schedule that in. YouTube is a little bit different because we can put it right away, or we can again schedule it to premiere at a certain time. But once it's up, it's up. It's a video on demand. So once it's out there, you wanted to wait another week for something else, that may or may not work for you. So so I think we need to really kind of hone in on what it is we're doing, how many groups are going to participate, and really what's going to be the duration of this. Because again, video, that's fine. 10 minutes, they're all going to be combined together. 10 minutes with 6 to 8 farmers, that's an hour plus right there. So just something to think about. And again, I think we have to keep working this a little bit more. We don't have a lot of time, obviously, but really what it is you really want, again, you want it to air on a given day, or is this going to be something, over a few days or a few weeks?
I think what I'm hearing from folks earlier is that we'd like to have one segment aired at once, right? Rather than each farm separately.
Yeah, that's what appears to be happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess should we try to focus people on doing something, a type of demo and tour that could be filmed in one day, like in an afternoon or something, so that it's not like, I know we could also be filming some footage ourselves, but for your crew, if you wanted to come out and film stuff, it would probably be like one time at each farm, right?
That'd be far simpler.
Yeah.
Hard to say. I mean, again, because I'm thinking of growing, so I'm thinking something obviously takes some time. I guess like when people come on any given day, they're seeing something pretty static, regardless. Other than livestock, I think plants are just there. And people just kind of come into it. It's like it's what's there on that given day is there. Where I think at least chickens or bees, I mean, there's movement, there's activity, and probably with the time of the day, that's a factor too. And again, please correct me if I'm wrong.
So to give you an example of some of the demos that folks are thinking of, like for us, what we wanted to do was highlight the whole process of seeding. So out in the field, so it would actually be like several different tractor, like prepping the bed with, like a couple of steps of like different tractors prepping the bed to plant into, and then seeding the bed. So it actually would kind of, for the demo that we were envisioning, be a bunch of different steps with people and action. You wouldn't see the plants growing, but it could be something that it's just like, this is what we were envisioning for ours. It's just like, this is how we do our seeding. And I think other people had ideas of like, in thinking of what they wanted to demo, things that could potentially also be things that if the public were coming to view the demo, could be done in like an hour. And like if it's film footage, it could be 5 minutes of footage, because there's a lot of time, like tractors driving back and forth, that you don't need to see more than 30 seconds of it.
This goes to the aesthetic. It's we build an hour's worth of stuff and condense it all down in, with speed, hyper camera, speed, time lapse type of thing. So that is something that can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, like Brian and Liza, you guys were talking about doing something with your carousel planter, like transplanting. So the whole like explaining and showing the whole process of how you would transplant in the spring, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to, it would all occur within the space of, so if you had a camera crew or whatever, it would occur within the space of an hour or an hour and a half. Of course, you would edit that down significantly, but you could talk, you start with the raw field, or something that's been primarily tilled, and then make your bed, and then how do you you prepare the soil? Is there fertilizer? How many workers do you need? What are they doing? Where are the plants, or where are the seeds? I mean, it's actually an interesting process. I think people that garden, which I guess is primarily our goal, or a significant portion of our target audience, would be fascinated, because they do it in a very different way than we do. And I think they would be fascinated by seeing how cavalier we are about how we treat our plants. So that was what I was thinking. So initially I was thinking tours. I think tours is probably not the main focus. I think it's kind of this, it's going to be this presentation. I still think you could do little parcels where, you could have this intro. This is the farms, and the camera goes around and does the interviews with farmers. And then each different farm would have a different activity highlighted. And, it could be part of a continuous thing that people watched, or they could just select it. It'd be like this little, there'd be the intro, and then there'd be Barrett's Mill doing, bed shaping and seeding, and then Hudson's Farm doing carousel planting, and then bees over here. And you don't necessarily have to watch it all at once, but you can kind of dial it up and see it.
One thing that's good, like with that kind, like, kind of a presentation, is almost having a post. And again, I'll put this out there. I mean, maybe could be somebody on your, panel here, your committee, spokesperson, who's like the overall voice of
City Steve.
Go bad mouth all the other farms now.
He's been nominated to narrate this segment.
Oh,
Like, these folks don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
But I think that is a viable, what you're suggesting there, and I think that would probably, especially in the community, again, it lends credence to, it's like, it makes it very real, because here is somebody who speaks for, this community and what they do, and they're a neighbor that you can, or, a proprietor, you can see them on any given day at the farm. So I think that adds a level of authenticity to, as opposed to having somebody like me or one of our folks, being a host. Again, I'm just putting it out there. It doesn't have to be, but, again, I think there's a level of continuity to it, kind of carries, let's go to the next farm, and let's go visit these folks, and let's go visit these folks. So it kind of takes you along on this journey with you.
well, there's certainly no towns nearby that have maintained the agricultural presence that Concord has.
Yeah, it's true. So, so as we continue to reach out to other farms that we would like to participate in this and do a demo, we should try to focus them in on picking something that could easily be mostly filmed in one day. And if they could, if it's something where you wanted to show like growth of a plant over time, like they could film or they could take photos or with your guidance perhaps to add to it, to the footage, but to try to focus it in on like a 1 day kind of presentation.
And also thinking of, first determining how many farms will participate.
Yeah.
And what they're wanting to focus on. What is it that they want to talk about? Again, you were mentioning before your farm, you're looking at seeding, so it's more of, it doesn't sound like it's a complete soup to nuts type of thing, but it's more like this is how we do this process.
Yeah.
Obviously we're not going to get to summer and have, here's the produce coming in, from our hard laborers back here, but, to determine what it is each farmer is going to talk about, what they would like to illustrate, in this case, demonstrate. Again, could be a few minutes, could be several hours, but again, that can be time-lapsed down. So, I think once we really determine how many farms there are, how many different stories, individual stories, demonstrations that are part of that, I think, and it sounds like it's starting to kind of come together as we're talking right now. Again, just like a one person or one program highlighting all the farms, and again, telling these stories of the different. And if it were to go long, say you had a dozen farms, break it up into 2 shows. It doesn't have to be one whole, 2-hour show.
Yeah.
I
don't think we'll have 12 farms participating, but I think probably 6 is safe to say. We'd have 6 participating, possibly a couple more.
Yeah. Should we pin down a time that we're looking at, like
that we want to have the footage filmed by?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, okay, what is your day that you would like this to be presented, to air, to be, out there? And then we can kind of work back from there.
I think a lot of us open up in May, so
15th.
May 15th, is that a good date to aim for?
I don't know.
Oh, no, I think we should do it much before.
I don't know.
There's not enough going on too much before.
Yeah. It'd be tough to get interesting footage before then.
Yeah. We're not going to be able to film anything until the very end of April, beginning of May. So.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because there's nothing going on.
It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. It's true.
But
It could be snowing.
I'm already timing. I've already put seeds in to find out how many days it's gonna take for them to sprout, and then I'm gonna find out how many days it takes them to be up to a certain height. And then I can.
Well, half these footage can be filmed in March then.
Oh, I guess you are. You've got crop plans. But when you get into May, you've got Mother's Day, you've got stands set up. I think pushing it into May, it's kind of ridiculous. People have already started thinking about where am I going to put my tomato plants?
Too early.
Well, I don't know that this is necessarily geared towards like a how-to for gardeners. It doesn't.
That's who it should be for. That's who comes.
But they're not gonna be prepping their fields with they're not gonna be doing their gardens the way that any of us are doing it. I think it's more informative, and most of us, we might be starting up selling stuff in May, but we don't have tons. Like, we can't be overrun with people the first week of May. We don't have enough for tons of people. So I feel like something aimed more towards mid-May.
So we're busy.
Yeah.
Well, even our plant sales, we sell a ton of plants, but our plant sales don't pick up until the third week of May because it's too early.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Last year they were beating our doors down saying we want to have plants.
It's too early.
Yeah, it's too early.
But
you can't say no, I'm not going to sell.
Sure you can. Absolutely. Don't waste your money.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you've got too many customers. That's it.
So Phil, if we wanted to aim for something to be airing in mid-May, is that enough time to film footage in like late April, early May, or is that realistic?
That might cut things, a little bit tight.
Yeah.
At the moment, again, I think what I'm going to need to do is just really talk with my team a little bit, kind of get a sense, because I'm just looking at scheduling, out what's going on. I mean, happily this is before town meeting, so so that we're a little bit later this month. I guess we're earlier this year compared to last year, but that aside. And that also goes for Carlisle too, because we do cover the Carlisle town meeting. They're going to have their town meeting at the beginning of June. So we think that's fine there for us to get this out of the way. But again, that said, really, if you're looking for May 15th, that basically is looking at about 3 weeks. It could be a little tight. Again, it could be a little bit tight.
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't mind if it's airing later, but I don't know if other people agree with that, because there's just not much to film in mid-April or early April. So if timing wise it makes more sense, if like the prime filming time is going to be late April, early May, and a realistic turnaround time is more like late May, personally I think that's fine, but I don't know what other folks think about that.
I go along with that.
Yeah. What, Steve, sorry, what was that?
I go along with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, that's almost a better target. Like our May 15th and the weekend after are usually our top plant sale weekends. Like getting people geared up towards that is perfect.
Yeah.
Gonna snow on the 12th.
Sorry.
Steve, what were you saying?
I said it's gonna snow on the 12th.
That's right. That's what I mean. And you don't know what's going to happen. I always schedule my earliest plantings to be, in mid-April, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
They might not happen.
All right, so we'll still aim to be having stuff that's filmable in that timeline of late April, early May, but with the aim of having a finished segment late May, right?
Right.
Does that sound reasonable, Phil?
Yeah, I think for the moment it does.
And some things will certainly be like like Saltbox, for instance, had like a very hard date of like April 5th is when they are going to be preparing their hives. So some stuff would be earlier. So it would, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and again, I think then working with you folks, and I'm not sure who would be the point of contact, but again, you know, I would look to you as to, you know, you mentioned Saltbox, you know, as being an earlier, like that would be good.
Yeah.
So, you know, if somebody can kind of coordinate what is the best time, whether again it's through like a one page or something that's the respective forums, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is the best time to do it. You know, if everybody just says no, like, you know, May 3rd is the day. It has to be that day. There's 3 people on May 3rd.
Yeah.
And I would ask people to give a thought about, you know, having a host. I'll leave it to you to discuss that.
Sure.
I don't think that has to be determined now, but again, I think it would be somebody who's representative of, you know, the community and who would enjoy doing it too. And then again, there, you know, it's not I don't think we have to consider it to be a heavy lift, but again, you know, this is what this organization is. This is where we're gonna, you know, what we hope to accomplish. Let's go and start visiting with farmer X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
A quick question, if I may. Do you have, does your crew have the capability of doing drone footage, like overhead view of the farm? Do you do that or not?
No, the short answer is no. It would be great. Yes, it would be. We unfortunately do not have that capability at this point.
Okay.
But if someone, if a friend of farming was able to take drone footage, you would take it if we could.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we just don't have it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, you know, believe it or not, you know, there is a areas that might be prohibited from having a drone fly if they're closer to Bedford, the airfield there. I think it's like a 5-mile radius. Because I know like North Bridge just it's kind of like right in it, the farthest point. So I think that covers a lot of Concord, really.
Yeah.
We're right on the edge.
Well, I think there are some newer drones that are out there that are more hobbyist drones that actually don't like have the height and flight pattern of, you know, larger, more commercial drones. We can get into it if you'd like, but you know,
I think a flyover in April would not be that interesting.
But speaking of drone footage, just remind me, I don't know how many of you got a chance to watch the that YouTube video that Bill Kenny's foreman's son put together. There is drone footage in that. Phil, I'll send you a link to it.
That's the that's the one that's at the high school. Which one?
So Kenny Farm, Bill Kenny grows wholesale green beans, and his foreman's son this season put together in 2020 put together a couple of like edited himself a couple of videos of the operation, and some of it did incorporate some drone footage, and it's pretty cool. So I'll send you. It's up on YouTube. I'll send you a link to it.
I mean, trust me when I say it's like fabulous.
Yeah. But they also, you know, they said, you know, they'd be perfectly willing to share the footage that they filmed for this as well. So.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. So Kenny Farm also will participate if they can use the footage that they have already filmed last year. All right, so we'll discuss amongst ourselves having a host and getting a list of.
What's nice about this, of course, this is being recorded. We'll actually get this and put this on YouTube, but I'll have my staff look at it. And again, you know, pretty creative people there. They might have some really good ideas that, you know, we haven't come across or thought about. So, you know, it's quite possible we may just come back with another idea and see what you all feel about it. But definitely, you know, again, I think this, you know, with my team, it's, you know, a very talented group, and you know, I think they'd be very enthused to be part of this program. And again, we'll do the best we can for you folks.
Great, thanks. Well, this is good. I think we have like a more concrete thing to ask of the farms that would participate to, give us a more in-depth description of what they would like to do.
We'll stay in touch now.
Yeah.
Again, when we made contact, and I got to see it. So by all means, please, you've got my email.
Yeah.
Give me a phone call if you have any questions, and that's true of any folks.
Yeah.
Any ideas that you have, shoot me an email, give me a phone call, and yeah, I mean, turnaround time won't be bad. It really won't be. It's just determining exactly, what we have, satisfying everything.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. That was
Sure.
super
Thank
helpful.
you. Thanks for having me, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good night now.
You too.
Bye.
All right. So we still want to see, so the list that I have of folks that are participating are Dan Waldenwood's participating, Steve Farrell, you guys are participating, Hutchins, us, Shimoni, Saltbox, and then Chip was at the last meeting, so I can follow up with him and see if he had a chance to talk with the greenhouse folks
Chris.
as well. Chris, yeah. And then Steve, you are okay with trying to pester Ricky Marshall some more?
Sure, yeah. If he, I think he might go to Florida. I'm not sure.
Okay.
One day I was over and there was a Christmas tree still in front of his front door, like he wasn't around, and no signs of life.
Yeah.
I know last year he went down to a place his father used to have. I don't know if he still has that or not.
That would be, if we had Marshall, Saltbox, Farmer Walden Woods, Barrel, Hutchins, Bearsmill Farm, Shimoni, and Brigham Greenhouses, that would be 8 farms. I don't know if there's anyone else that we should be trying to.
I don't know if Colonial Gardens might be interested.
Colonial Garden, okay.
I could check with him.
An email to Gaining Ground.
Right.
Thing. And then Kenny Farm, if we are using that video, that would just.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that Fran is no longer at Gaining Ground, so that maybe why she hasn't replied. She's retired.
And they have new managers now too, so
Yeah.
our contacts it's all new contacts there. Okay. All right. Well, so Steve will follow up with Ricky. I'll follow up with Chip. And I'll get the link to Phil of the Kenny footage.
Wait, when these guys are filming, are we still trying to have keep the public there?
Yeah. I feel like it would be easier to not have the public there when they're filming. I don't know how you all feel about that, but we're perfectly willing to also just have a separate event that coincides with when this airs on our end, but
Yeah, I think that is better scheduling wise and advertising and all that.
yeah, it allows for a little more flexibility if it's like a rain date. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll focus in on figuring out who's going to participate and what they're going to demo, and then once we have that down, figure out who wants to actually host something afterwards, if they want to host something, or if we just want to just have it be focused on doing the footage, the segment. All right. Does it sound like we have a plan for? Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, you said, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, all right. All right, so we'll try to just pin down more people before the next meeting. Does everyone feel like they have an understanding for farmers who are doing a demo of what kind of we should be focusing on doing?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna do a demo of interviewing laborers.
A demo of how to hire people.
Good idea. I want to see that demo.
Should we move on to news about Concord farms and farmers on that note?
Things under snow.
Yeah.
It's good. It's gonna get cold, or it already has gotten cold. It's gonna stay cold.
Yeah.
And if I've got garlic or strawberries, you're happy that there's snow. Right?
Definitely. Are you guys having hiring troubles right now? Or hiring successes?
we're not having hiring troubles, we're having housing troubles.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that could be another segue.
No, our H2A workers, they've been tightening the screws for a few years, and this year they can't live in my house because it's too close to the livestock. If they were here for 12 months, it would be legal, but if they're seasonal, it's not.
Wow.
Figure that out. So we've leased 2 condos at the New View over in Maynard by the New Star Market Basket.
Oh, wow.
And we're just hoping that they're gonna pass inspection because they've changed the requirement for distance between beds and a few other things. So they've changed them, but they haven't published them yet. And we're coming down to the guideline, the deadline now for when we have it in. So it's a mess.
Yeah.
This is for your Jamaican workers?
Yeah. They've lived on the other side of my house for 23 years. And they finally determined that it's too close to the livestock. It's supposed to be 500 feet from livestock.
So what do you do with that housing this year?
Well, probably run it out to somebody else.
Rent it out to other farmers in town?
Well, it has to be full-time workers. It can't be seasonal. I mean,
But if
what?
they're not H2A, does it matter?
That doesn't matter. The first place they rejected, I have a full-time employee living there. He's happy as can be. And it's legal, but if he just worked part of the year, it wouldn't be. Make sense out of that.
Steve, can you hire your Jamaicans as full-time and lay them off after 6 months?
Well, that wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah.
They have to come in on an H2A visa, and that means they can't stay here for 12 months. We've tried trying to think if we could make it the legal address and pay them for 4 months when they were home, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So just so I got it right, you bought condos in Maynard for the housing?
Well, we're leasing them.
For the rental units by the market?
Yeah, at the View there, they're beautiful places.
You're gonna love those Jamaicans.
But the bedrooms are only 11 feet, 5 inches wide, or 6 inches wide. And there's supposed to be 6 feet between beds, where last year was 3 feet, so. It
Oh,
gets-
this is just a COVID thing, maybe?
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh, wow.
oh.
move on.
Any other news? We talked about committee membership, spring forum. Should we, Did everyone get a chance to look at the, it's a very brief, the article 49 about, neonicotinoids? So that article was postponed from last year. I don't know if that's the technical term, postponed, but it was moved to this year. And it is banning the use of neonicotinoids on all new agricultural leases in Concord. So I don't know, Steve, if it's not for renewals for your land, is that correct?
I believe so. There's a little question that with the White Pond land where we've only been using it for 40 years, but it's under different ownership. And if that's a new lease or not, I don't know.
Right.
Did you get a letter in the mail from, I don't remember what the organization was, but it was also about that neonics being responsible for bee depopulation and so forth. So there was evidently a large mass mailing of the same type of thing, which might spur the passage of this.
Was it a Concord-based mailing, or was it a
No, it was more like
Xerxes Foundation?
But I'm not hearing you very well.
Happy was just
The wording of the thing has to do with brand new leases and not any kind of renewals or rollovers. But that's my understanding.
so. Linda Escobedo, who's the chair of the select board, was asking if the ag committee had a position on this article. Do we feel like we want to take a position on it?
I believe it's something that should be left to the pesticide board and not before town meeting, but that's my vote.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of sketchy information out there, and I do think that the majority of the material has been used by homeowners. I was reading the other day that to treat 8 16-inch hemlock trees uses the maximum amount that's allowed for 1 acre of land, and it would have a residual of 4 years in the soil. And when you think about it, you put it on top of the soil, it has to saturate the soil to the point that the roots are gonna pick it up and take it to the top of the tree. And if you're talking about seed treatment, you're trying to treat one seed to protect the seed and a couple leaves for a few months, a few weeks. But I haven't been able to find any hard numbers to show what the comparison is.
I think we should take no position at all. But if we were to take a negative position, we would want to have somebody go up and explain that kind of thing that Steve was just talking about. But I think there's a lot, like Happy said, there's mailers going out. There's a lot of public sentiment, whether it's justified or not, against neonics. And if you fight too hard against it, you just look like you're trying to make excuses. So I think it's a difficult topic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of sentiment that isn't based on fact, and I don't think you can fight it.
So
It's just like the Jamaican housing.
So Steve, you feel like the way that it's worded right now, it's not particularly a threat to you?
No, but I don't like the idea of it.
Yeah. But we're kind of in a sentiment that we don't really want to take a position either way.
matter of whether we go on fact or principle.
What is the pesticide board?
That's a state board that makes recommendation to the legislature about how it should be legislated. That's professionals appointed by the governor.
And something about that is coming to town meeting?
No, but they're having a meeting February 16th to take this issue up. And one thing I think they are going to do is make it a restricted chemical so that only licensed applicators can use it. I know of one homeowner recently that's mentioned he used it on his hemlock trees and he didn't have any idea that's what he was using. And there's been a lot of that around. I did a number of years ago. I had like 10 hemlock trees at the foot of my yard that was starting to show the woolly, and I went down to Ace and got some treatment, and it cost me quite a bit of money, and I was surprised when I got it home and I read the directions. It was just good for one tree. So I put it around that one tree. That was probably 10 years ago. And that's the only hemlock tree that survived. So it worked, and it worked for a long time afterwards in one little area here. But that's what's been going on around. And I've got upset that some people that used it on many of their hemlock trees and came after me for killing the bees when I don't think there was any connection.
Right. Right. So Steve, are you, but you're okay with the idea of the committee not taking a position on it? Sounds like.
I'm not really okay with it, but I'm not sure what it's the best option.
Right.
A lot of the things they talk about seed treatment and the case they use generally goes back to, I don't know, 10 or 15 or more years ago out in the Midwest. And seed treatment used to be different. I used to buy the seed treatment in like a 1-quart paint can, and it had a dipper in it, tablespoon or 2 tablespoon dipper, and you put a couple spoons of that on in your hopper, and it would circulate down as the seed went down, and some would come out on the seed and the rest would just go in the ground. And that wasn't a huge problem, I don't think. But then they came out with the vacuum planters, which most people use nowadays, and all the extra powder would be drawn through the vacuum and out the exhaust and blown into the edges of the field. And that's the classical story they use about the bee kill around the edge of the field, the cornfield. And those days are long gone. Now the seed treatment is like a very thin lacquer that you can just see coloring the coat of the seed. And it doesn't come off on your hands. It doesn't come off in a bag of the cedar. And it's a totally different scenario from the cases they quote for the research projects.
I just personally don't know enough about it, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what none of the voters do either, but they're going to vote on it. That's what bothers me.
I wonder, so, I mean, historically we did do a statement about like the affordable housing article from several years ago without taking a position on it. I don't know if people would be interested in making a statement without endorsing or the article or saying no to the article. But that could be an option if that felt appropriate to people.
When do you have to decide?
I think they want to know by the 19th if we have a position on it, if we are endorsing it or not. But I don't think we have to. If we're not going to do that, we could certainly still draft a statement for town meeting about it. You know, not taking a position, but saying here's factors that voters should know about.
So, forgive me, I don't think I followed this well enough, but Steve said that the pesticide board, the state level pesticide board is going to be considering this on the 16th.
Correct.
And they conclude that only licensed applicators may use or apply Unix. Doesn't that in a way solve?
That's a likelihood.
Well, but it's still banning the use of neonicotinoids on any new agricultural leases. So any, you know, if any leases changed hands in town or a new farm, they would not be allowed to use it even if they were licensed.
I think Steve said he doesn't want the town to get involved in regulating mix at all.
Yeah.
And wishes that they would leave it to the pesticide board to do so. And that he would be fine if it was a restricted use pesticide in the purview of just licensed pesticide applicators. And yet towns have the potential to, you know, go from there and make more restrictive.
Yes.
All
I
right.
think it's kind of part and part because, you know, we're a combination of conventional and organic farms. So we sort of have to take everybody into account.
It'll be hard to get statistics, but I think it's safe to say that the majority of it used in town is by homeowners rather than farmers.
And also, if you're, you know, discouraging agricultural use of neonicotinoids, what is the alternative that's going to end up being
Right, that's
worse?
one of the things that's much safer to workers than some of the alternatives. And also the bees, I mean, 7 would be one of the replacements, and that's not especially friendly to bees.
Well, that sounds like it would be worth not taking a position, but nevertheless contributing to the conversation.
Yeah, I would be in favor of writing a statement.
Okay.
Not just with more explanation, I guess, not really taking a position.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Do you agree, Steve?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So I'm not sure, like, if there's a deadline for when we would need to draft a statement by. The town meeting isn't until June. I don't think that if we're not taking a position, I don't think that we have to have drafted a statement by, I think it was the 19th. Terry, do you know?
I'm gonna look that up for you in a minute, but I'm not sure there's even a deadline of the 19th, but I
Okay.
do know that on February 27th.
Oh, maybe that's the date, yeah.
Okay, on February 27th, it's Saturday, there's a town meeting preview meeting. And all the potential article sponsors are going to talk for a couple of minutes. So it could come up that day, the question could come up, what's the committee's position? And you can still say then we're still discussing it. Or you can say we've discussed it and we're not going to take an official position.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly don't have to have the written statement done until the warrant deadline. And I'm going to look that up for you now. I'll tell you
Okay. Great.
what that'll be. I think April or something. Let me look at that.
Okay. So we could potentially discuss at next meeting what, and work on drafting a statement at the next meeting. Does that sound?
That would be after the pesticide board has recommendations, I think, too.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But you might want to say, we discussed it, but we wanted to wait until state pesticide board met.
Mhm.
Decide what you want to say. We're inclined to take no position, but we haven't voted yet, whatever
Okay.
it is.
Is there anyone who would like to attend the meeting on the 27th to share our what Terry just summarized for us more eloquently than I? Steve, would you like to do
Well,
that?
I guess I could do that,
Okay.
unless Brian would like to.
Not a member,
I think I'm on.
Yeah.
only for the public.
So yeah, I think what Terry just said about, we're discussing, we haven't taken a position. And we would like to wait and see what the state pesticide board has to say about it. Is that sufficient for what we would want to say on the 27th?
Well, they'll have made a decision by then, so we'll know what it is.
Okay.
Well, I think they will anyway. They're supposed to.
Right. Oh yeah, the 16th you said, yeah.
Well, we can say we haven't had an opportunity to
Okay.
discuss their position.
But we are inclined to not take a position. Is that what we want to say?
We'll probably have a meeting before that also, right?
No. Our next meeting will be in March.
Sorry, I'm not making it straight.
I would do it if I could dip into the meeting and then leave. But I don't want to sit through whatever that whole meeting was.
Yeah. Are you allowed to speak on behalf of the Ag Committee if you're not
I don't know.
a member?
If you empower me,
Well,
I'm happy to empower Brian.
anybody can speak.
Okay. I mean, yeah, Terry, does it have to be a person who's a current member to speak on behalf of the committee?
You can say that you attended the meeting and the committee delegated you to speak on their behalf. This is only going to come up if there's a question from the audience about what is the position of the Ag Committee. That question may or may not come up. And there will be a timetable that comes out. So you will know approximately what time this article is going to come up and you can jump in and out. And finally, I just want to tell you where all this stuff is located. Go on the website, click on town meeting, and you go far over to the left and click on 2021. And then all the information about the 2021 town meeting will come up. All these deadlines and all these dates and all of it is going to come up then. So it's looking like March. They don't exactly say for this thing. I would say, well, wait a second. Let me look at one more thing. Okay, the warrant is going to be mailed in April. It looks like you have until middle or the end of March to write your statement.
So we should probably draft something to discuss at next meeting, because the next meeting would be in early March.
Yeah, and even if you miss that deadline, you can have a handout at town meeting. But during COVID, they don't want too many handouts. So, it might be better to finish by March.
Okay.
But if the committee's not taking a position and simply standing up at town meeting to make a statement, it wouldn't have to produce anything written, would it?
Correct. So only if you were talking about a written statement and you wanted to know the deadline for that.
Right.
Do you automatically, if we had a written statement, would someone still read it? Or is it just one or the other kind of thing?
That's a discussion that you would have with the moderator.
What do you all think? Should we try to write a statement before that March deadline?
I think maybe we see what happens with the pesticide board and decide at the next meeting.
Well, if we wanted to have a statement that the Ag Committee approved before that March deadline, we would have to approve it at the next meeting.
Well, could you, I believe you could appoint a subcommittee to work on that and bring it to the next meeting
Okay.
under the open meeting laws?
Okay. Steve, would you like to be on that subcommittee?
I would like to be on that.
Yeah. Does it have to be people who are members of the Ag Committee to be on the subcommittee? Like, could Brian? Could we nominate Brian to help with that too?
I think we've had subcommittees before with non-committee members, but Terry might know.
I think, yeah, I think it's better. They really tightened up the open meeting law, so technically, even if you have a subcommittee now, the subcommittee has to post their meetings, you have to have agendas, they have to be on the website, they have minutes.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
If it's Steve and Brian is not a member, then you don't have to do all that. Because Steve's your only member, then it's much easier. And the other thing you can do is Steve and Brian can send out their draft to all of you in advance, but you cannot reply all. Do not reply all. That's the violation.
Yeah.
Just read the draft and be ready with your comments when you have your meeting.
Brian, would you be willing to work with Steve on that?
Sure.
Since you were on the Pollinator Health Committee?
Yeah, I have all the buzzwords.
Yeah. No pun intended.
buzz.
I'm so happy not to be on a subcommittee.
Okay.
I like the idea of a written statement. I think it could like show that it's from everybody. I think it'd be hard to have one person stand up and try to explain, given that it's kind of like a
Yeah, I just look like a wacko.
like a difficult issue, and it'd be hard the whole time. You can't be like, this is the Ag Committee's position, you know.
So I think we should do both. We should have a written statement, and then we should delegate somebody to get up there. I don't know. Is there an up there? Is town meeting Zoom? Anyway, somebody has to go and say it too, right? And say this is the opinion of the agricultural community.
Yeah.
This is only if somebody asks for our opinion.
I mean, a town meeting, you don't have to be asked.
We could actually set ourselves up. We could ask for our own.
The other meeting they're talking about is a different meeting where we would just ask.
Yeah.
There's two meetings. Third one is February 27th. That is going to, the people sponsoring this article are going to talk for like 3 minutes. And then somebody might ask the question, what is the Ag Committee's position? And so that's, you just wanted, Dan, I think this is going to go, right? Was it Dan who's going to this meeting?
No.
Brian, maybe?
Right.
Brian, you can't never leave.
I knew approximately when they were going to ask that question.
Right.
And I would also say, no, I think we should, at least as far as I know, like the state.
Right. So they'll do a assessment like I said, on the website.
Okay.
The town meeting forward to the bar that it's the left, click on 2021. And right now we don't have the time for it yet. But we'll have all the times written during COVID last year, we wanted it to use as possible. So it's really hard to predict how we're gonna run the county. Well, it's sense.
So it's probably pretty important to have a good.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Ryan, you'll jump in on the part where they're talking about Article 49 on the 27th.
Become town meeting preview.
Okay. It's almost like setting an agenda.
Right, it's fair warning. These are the articles that we are coming up.
And then the one, and then there's another one, you said in late March or in April. That's the,
That's the deadline for a written statement. Yeah, I'm starting to be part of COVID down this week. Also, last week, because we wanted to start testing, they had another meeting, but it's actually really, really helpful. Now, 2 or 3 weeks before time. And this time we can make presentations that will be done to town meeting or no presentation, everybody's voted. And it was wonderful, loved it. Like 2 hours instead of 4 days. And we made it to that again, and that came make the presentation, explain the statement. But if that happens, if he wants information about it, I don't know anything about it right now.
so Steve and Brian, if you are okay with drafting a statement before the next meeting for us to discuss and approve to submit.
We'll try to put something together.
Okay. Great. Thanks guys for doing that. All right. We move on to other business.
Yeah.
Any other business? Oh, right. Yeah. I forgot about that. So the NMI Darnet reuse committee put out a report and they're looking for comments. Maybe that's when the 19th in my head was the deadline for comments. So they had asked committee chairs to forward to their committees and to try to just get the word out that they're looking for comments on it. And the only reason that I thought it particularly interesting perhaps to committee members is that there is some discussion of housing usage at the site, the Superfund site. So it's been supposedly remediated to housing standards. And so there's some discussion of whether it's actually going to be used for housing, whether some of it will be affordable housing. There's not wanting to be the appearance of it, like this contaminated land is where affordable housing is, and that's it. So anyway, I don't know that the committee necessarily needs to take a position as a committee, but certainly if you're interested, read the report and submit a comment individually. Unless folks would like the committee to have a position on it. I don't know if folks had a chance to read it. I think it's still in a very
Yeah, it's gonna be a long time before anything happens, but the amount of remediation will depend some on what the likely desired plan is for it.
So I think there were like 3 scenarios, and 2 of them included housing in it. But it wouldn't be exclusively a housing use for housing. It would be there were a bunch of other uses, recreational uses, office. there's a bunch of proposed usages, so.
And the committee, just say as a general matter, is always interested in affordable housing. I seem to recall being approached at an even earlier stage, being approached because of connection with the ag community, and being told, there are so many different possibilities. If you have any thoughts, weigh in, because I think that's for grabs, and it does now sound a bit narrower, three options to retain housing. And we would heard to say we're just always in favor of more housing options, more diverse housing stock into now. And of course, we're trusting that remediation would genuinely lead to housing standards. Yeah. Could our farmers like have plant things in little bag gardens? That'd be really
I don't think so. I to be honest, didn't read the whole thing. I kind of skipped around to housing parts.
I mean, I think there's some interesting stuff in there. They were talking about, needs for recreation in Concord, and our years of our land that it can be turned into a soccer field. So
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a great place to put back the over there.
Definitely.
Pollution.
Yeah.
But just our field.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't.
Yeah. I don't know that we have. I mean, we don't have time to like create an official statement as the I committee because I think the comments are due by the 19th. But maybe I would just encourage everyone to individually comment. That sounds like it makes sense. If you would like to say something about housing and Eliza's point also about diverting the attention of recreational soccer field from farmland to super fun site.
That makes sense given time pressures.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think I sent you all the links to the report, but I might not have actually sent the link to where you can do the make your comment. So I will, after the meeting, look through my email and find the link to it and get out to everyone in case you would like to make a comment about the report.
The only other thing I have a question about is you mentioned that they wrote that letter about offering COVID vaccines, and I didn't know if there was any developments with that.
No. We got pushed back. We're now essential workers are now behind 65 to 74-year-olds and people with two comorbidities. Yeah, I've been, both Melissa and I have been following the website, and they do put up updates occasionally about it, but it doesn't seem like it's anywhere near to when farmers will be vaccinated. And I know the town did do a vaccination clinic for 75 plus folks. They had 100 spots for that, filled up very quick. That was all they were allotted, 100 vaccine doses. And I think there's something like 2,500 residents of Concord that are age 75 plus. So yeah, it's going to be. It's unlikely that there will be a town vaccination clinic for essential workers. So it's going to be up to us to continue to monitor the state website and keep up to date on when we're eligible and where we can sign up when we're eligible.
I think it'll be available soon, but it might not be in Concord.
They opened up, I don't know if any of you have, I signed my dad up for it on the day that it opened up with 75 plus, and it was chaotic. And they're still not very pleased, but I don't know if it's gonna be different. Yeah.
Apparently, kids are over 75-year-old dead.
Yeah.
And that's making.
I have to make an appointment on the same day. So he's already had it first.
That's not very well.
Yeah, Gillette, okay, so he's going to Gillette and any state-run vaccination site, but if you got like a pharmacy one, it's like a CVS, then you can't.
Right.
Well, if you get the first one with him, then they automatically give you an appointment for the second one.
Yeah, he already got the first one.
Right, but if you get the first one, when he gets a second, you get your appointment for your second.
Right, but you have to, if you're, companion of a 75 plus person, you still have to make the appointment and try to make it as, you're not guaranteed to, you have to be able to find an appointment on the exact same day.
Right.
The exact same spot.
And he's already got his spot, right?
Sick also to go at the end of the day, and they just want to bring up everything that's thawed out and would otherwise be disposed of.
That's what some people are doing.
Well, for us, this last year, putting the online, thing for our. Disaster, so I really want to get back to opening the farm stand and I'll feel a lot more comfortable about doing that, like. Get, our people vaccinated.
Sure. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Who knows when it's gonna happen? The takeaway.
Yeah, we all made it through last year.
Yeah, we did. We made it. Yeah. So I'm certainly gonna keep monitoring it. So if I hear anything, I will let you all know. Any other? Oh,
Buy K95 masks at your local Staples.
oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's problem.
Any other business to discuss? Public comment?
Doing a great job, Lisa.
I'm sorry. Every meeting that I've run has gone longer and longer. We just set a record now. It's almost 2 hours. It's like we're back in pre-COVID time. Next meeting, March 11th. That's the second Thursday in March. That works for folks.
See you there, I hope.
March 11th, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll set the next meeting for March 11th. And anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. Happy Valentine's. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.